Mary Sue, just calm your tits, okay? Before I'd even said a single thing, I know you're pissed off at the idea that someone might say something mean about your precious Final Fantasy. Already in the comments, typing "I'm a twat-wazzle" with the 2 fingers you jerked yourself off with to your lightning hentai stash. Well, despite Final Fantasy VII looking like Freako Sonic with a head boner on top of a Bob Ross painting, this is a video about Square Enix, and they do a lot more than make tit-wank anime games about soldiers and mercenaries and whatever the fuck a Moogle is. I'm aiming my sight on the company behind Just Cause, Nier, Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, to name a few. The bona fide JRPG royalty that could repossess the Fire Emblem series with raw big dick energy, and Nintendo wouldn't even get mad. So you see, I ain't taking shots at your kink, I'm shooting for the king. Once upon a time in a land far, far away, there was a dazzling princess called Square Co. Limited and a dashing prince named Enix Corporation. Enix grew wealthy through publishing, which is just a fancy word for selling other people's ideas. One such idea happened to be the multi-million seller Dragon Quest, which is exactly the dumb luck some real estate stockbroker douchebag that renamed himself after the arse end of a phoenix would stumble into. Square amassed its riches with their Final Fantasy games, and then courted favour with all the king's horses and all the king's men under a plethora of different names. Because dissociative identity disorder is a much nicer label than the truth. Business whore. Final Fantasy was shat into existence by one Hironobu Sakaguchi, a man who was so fucking done with video games, he literally put the word final in the title, effectively creating a suicide note that sold 1.3 million copies. Throughout the 90s and noughties, Square played the field with Final Fantasy like the modern gal she is. When the big boys got in a fight, they broke things off with long-time support of Nintendo and gave the goods to Sony. Not that stopped them hooking up with the X from time to time. Despite rising to executive vice president, Hironobu Sakaguchi left Square in 2003 and founded Mistwalker, closing the door on a legacy bigger than Riku's midriff in favour of making 2 bad games on Xbox 360 and pulling the career suicide note stunt again with The Last Story on Wii in 2011. That game saw cult and mainstream success, helped by being swept up in fan campaign Project Rainfall, getting positive review scores in between Pandora's Tower and Xenoblade Chronicles, which Mistwalker looked at and went, fuck it! No more games! That's all we're gonna do from now on! You know, we've wandered pretty far out from Square Enix. I should probably get this video back on track. By 2000, tending the land of video games development had grown costly, and the new world of online gaming was on the morrow. So, with Square's experience in creating games and Enix's experience in selling them, the prince and princess united their kingdoms and were wed in holy matrimony. Because there's nothing that gets a Japanese businessman stiffer than fiscal sensibility. Square Enix formed in 2003 after breaking off playing footsies with EA and would go on to absorb Taito and Eidos Interactive, using the latter to create Square Enix Europe, handling the more western looking stuff like Just Cause, Life is Strange and the walking pair of speed bumps Lara Croft. Square Enix have released many video games over the years, several of which have names that are a tougher mouthful than entire sections of Pornhub. The titles of some of these games genuinely boggle the mind. From meaningless Instagram captions like "The World Ends with You" to straight up nonsense like "Octopath Traveler." The name Bravely Default will already make an English teacher want to floss their teeth with a Beretta M9, but hearing it as 2 separate sequels called Bravely Second and Bravely Default 2 is enough reason to turn the gun on everyone else. They've named re-releases officially with needless words and numbers. They've named Kingdom Hearts games with fractions, decimals, and the Greek alphabet. They've named every mainline Dragon Quest game since the 5th one with a shitty alliterative subtitle, including Dragon Quest Heroes, The World Trees Woe, and The Blight Below, which I'd much rather take and shove every word into every hole of the idiot that came up with that stupid idea. The worst offenders are the re-releases, which seem to come out with the aggressive frequency of a dog in heat getting down on a DDR machine. To date, they've released 12 Kingdom Hearts games a total of 27 times, and released the first 12 mainline Final Fantasy console games 30 fucking 7 times! No one needs to see the Clown Shoe Kid, SpongeBob Elephant Knees, and Homeless Kimmy Schmidt that many times, especially in a rhythm game that nobody asked for! But the worst offenders are the ones that come out so slow you'll be worrying what pronoun to call your grandkid's third husband long before you see a third trailer for a game they announced when they were just a little burl. Most game studios would share a new project 1 to 2 years from release, but Square Enix's inexplicable proclivity to announce a game years before it sees the light of day has made fans wait 3 years for Marvel Avengers, 5 years for Final Fantasy VII Remake, which isn't even the full game, 6 years for Kingdom Hearts 3, and 10 whole years for Final Fantasy 15 after a brief intermission being a completely different game. At this point in time, Babylon's Fall, Forspoken, and Final Fantasy XVI had been revealed with the same trivial, vague, brown filter cinematics that have as much chance of coming out in the next year as James Corden forming a human centipede with Gomez from the Addams Family and Barney the fucking dinosaur. It's so infuriating that with all their weird habits, I'm still going to give them an eternal pass, because they assembled the dream team of Hironobu Sakaguchi, Yuji Horii, and Akira Toriyama to create Chrono Trigger, a diverse, mechanically inventive, time-travelling epic of a story and one of the greatest video games of all time. Square Enix will continue to release dumb remasters with dumb names both too often and not often enough, while you beg your cousin to try on this wig just to get some new pictures for that new folder you opened in the Lightning Hentai stash! Rant over.